Well, somehow the month of June has come and gone. Yep, we're in July now. We're officially halfway through 2025. This is pretty wild, and it really feels like time is just flying by. It feels like it was just yesterday that it was January, but nope, now it's hot as hell, and it really is summertime. And so, it's time to talk about all of the games I played in the month of June. It is that time again, where I give y'all some life updates, and I share what titles I've been playing over the last 30 days. This isn't every single game I've played over the last month, but these are some of the more notable ones that I've actually put a decent amount of time into. You know the drill. You already know if you like these kinds of videos or not. I'm not giving these games full reviews. I'm not ranking them. I'm just sharing my thoughts, first impressions, etc. And just giving a general vibe check on some of these games. So with that, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Got the Patreon and the super thanks. Any support is truly greatly appreciated. I have memberships as well. Seriously, thank you all so very much for the support over the last month or two. It really has meant a lot. So to kick things off, let's talk about the Switch 2, easily the biggest release of June 2025. It will probably end up being one of the biggest releases of anything in 2025. But despite it being, you know, the next Nintendo console, I feel like I just haven't heard a ton of people talking about this. I've heard a fair amount of people talking about Mario Kart World, but the Switch itself or really anything else, yeah, not so much, which is a bit surprising. It has only been a few weeks, and I'm sure it'll gain some momentum as time goes on and more titles release for it, but I will say it feels a lot better than the Switch 1, that's for sure. The Switch 1, you know, it felt fine, but the Switch 2, man, the Joy-Cons, the controller, the weight itself, it really does feel a lot better. So what have I been playing on it? I've really been playing two games on it, that being Mario Kart World and Fast Fusion. There was also Bravely Default, but I've only played a few hours of that, and that really is just a slightly enhanced 3DS game. There were a number of launch titles for this console, but a majority of them were older titles just coming to the new console, stuff like Cyberpunk, Hitman, Street Fighter, Yakuza 0, etc. I'm not going to talk about those. I'll briefly talk about Mario Kart and Fast Fusion. I did actually rank both of these series and give these games extensive reviews. If you want to know my full thoughts on these, I'll be brief with these, starting with Mario Kart World. This is easily the best title for the Switch 2 right now. This is really why you get the Switch 2. It is the system seller right now, and it's surprisingly not as well liked as I thought it would be. There's actually a large portion of people that are not falling in love with Mario Kart World like they did with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and one of the reasons is because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe really was just kind of the GOAT. It really is just perfection when it comes to Mario Kart gameplay, and Mario Kart World, it does something different. I like certain aspects of it, I don't like certain aspects of it, but I can still say that it is a very fun time. It's also an incredibly chaotic time when you're playing online though. The single player in this game, look, it's about as good as the other Mario Karts. You go through the Grand Prix, you race the CPUs, there's this open world you can explore now. I think it's decent enough, but a majority of my time has been spent with the online, and the online is just an absolute frenzy. With 24 players, it really is just as chaotic as it gets. You'll go from second place to 22nd place in the span of like 3 seconds, but the opposite can absolutely happen as well, where you go from like last place to first place in the span of just a few seconds. It really is just total chaos here, and some people really like how chaotic it gets and how crazy it can be. Other people wish there was a bit more skill involved. I kind of fall in between, you know. I love how crazy it can get, but yeah, sometimes I wish there was a bit more skill required for the online racing. And it's a shame because the racing itself, you know, there's actually a lot of depth and strategy with it, with all the grinding and wall riding and all this crazy shit, and it just kind of goes out the window the moment you start playing online. You just need really good items and you'll be just fine here. But then again, this is Mario Kart we're talking about. This isn't anything super competitive or serious. It's Mario Kart. It's a kart racer, so I'm not going to put too much stock into it. I like how crazy it gets, and I think it can be pretty fun. The knockout mode is absolutely incredible though. It is so much fun. It's the best addition Mario Kart has had in a very long time, and it's always a great time, and I don't mind driving on the intermission tracks in this. What I do mind is driving the intermission tracks just during normal races. Look, these are fine and all, and driving in a straight line is fine, but why would I want fine when I have these excellent tracks that Nintendo built? I want to race on the 9 out of 10 courses, not the 5 out of 10 courses. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling about Mario Kart World at this point. I will just say I think it's a good game, but I don't think it's absolutely incredible. I don't think it's the best Mario Kart, and I don't think anything's ever going to be able to beat Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at this point. This game certainly has the potential though, with lots of updates, some tweaks here and there, and making the online and joining your friends just a better experience. Yeah, I think this game can, you know, be the best in the whole series. We'll see though. Then we have Fast Fusion, which is a decent futuristic racer in the vein of Wipeout. that is actually part of the long-running Fast series. This is the 4th game in the series, and while I don't think it's the very best, I still think it is pretty good. I know some people have complained about the image quality. Yeah, it's not amazing, but I think the game overall still looks really good, and it actually runs really smooth, which I certainly think is impressive since you are going really fast in this game. You actually do get some real speed here. There's a decent amount of content to this game. You know, there's some different difficulty modes. There's a hardcore mode. There's time trial. There's all the Grand Prix. There's a good selection of tracks, but to be honest, I think they just need more here. It was starting to get a bit samey with some of these. The best addition this game brings to the Fast series is the fusion mechanic, where you can actually fuse the vehicles together and you can get a bunch of unique combinations. Something else that's really strange is that there's no online multiplayer. Yeah, there's no online multiplayer for a new racing game in the year 2025. It's just a very odd decision. Either way, the game is digital only. It is $15. This isn't a $40 or $50 release. It is a $15 little budget racer, and for that, you know what? It gets my thumbs up, and I think it is worth your time if you like Wipeout or F-Zero. I don't think it's going to wow you. I don't think it's going to blow you away like, say, Wipeout Omega Collection will, but there still is some fun to be had here. You can certainly get 5 to 10 hours of fun. So when it comes to non-Switch 2 games that I played throughout the month of June, one that I actually played quite a bit of was Elden Ring Night Rain. Now this one came out at the very end of May, but I didn't even try it in the month of May. I've played it only in June, and I've actually been quite enjoying it. There certainly are some things that I don't care too much for in this game, but for the most part, I think this is actually a pretty decent game. I know it's gotten a little bit of a bad rap, but there's actually a lot of enjoyment to be had here. I will say, when I started this game, I did try playing it in solo, and I'll just be blunt, it was just kind of a miserable experience in solo. Learning everything about this game and being by yourself, it just kinda sucks. It's nowhere near as fun. When you're with 2 other people, it really is a hell of a lot more enjoyable and doable as well. The game is just clearly not balanced for single player whatsoever, to the point where, legit, I just don't think it's a very good game. But when you're with other people, oh, it's great. It's good fun. When you're all ganging up on the bosses together, when you're figuring out where you want to go, when you're planning your route, I actually think this is pretty cool. I do wish that there was a bit more randomization to everything. I mean, it is a roguelike after all, and these maps feel pretty much identical to each other. Like, there's some changes here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty similar. The drops you get are a little too similar, but hey, at least there's a lot of variety when it comes to the bosses, and a good amount of them. Most of the game really is fighting bosses, and this is actually pretty fun. I like how they've streamlined a lot of the role-playing mechanics just to make it this really fast, more action-oriented experience. And you know, clearly not everybody is on board with that. Plenty of people have told me that they don't like this game's approach. They don't like that it's just Fortnite with Elden Ring, which I think is a disservice to the game and what it brings to the table. Look, this isn't the big Elden Ring follow-up. This is a spin-off by a different team that is more experimental than anything else, and I think it's pretty good. They're not selling this for $60, $70. They were selling it for $40. It's clearly an online experience, and at the end of the day, it does have Elden Ring's gameplay, and the gameplay of Elden Ring is just so goated that it pretty much doesn't matter what it's put in. It's going to be a good experience. I haven't beaten all of the bosses, but I beat a majority of them, and I think it's a fun time. Would I say it's anywhere near as enjoyable as, you know, Dark Souls or Elden Ring or Bloodborne or Sekiro or any of those? No, but it's still enjoyable and it's something different. Kind of like Mario Kart, it feels like the Elden Ring Dark Souls formula has just kind of been perfected at this point, and I like that they're trying something different. Not everything's going to stick. Some stuff's great, some stuff not so much. I just like that they took risks and really went for something different. AAA games especially just play it so safe nowadays, and I know a bunch of people were like, I can't believe they made this instead of like Sekiro 2. You know what, good on them for trying something different. I'm sure people said the same thing about Demon Souls when it released. They went, what are they doing? Why aren't they just making more Armored Core? Well, you know what, they're trying something different. Maybe this works out, maybe it doesn't. Either way, I enjoyed my time with it. But Night Rain wasn't the only co-op game I played in the month of June. I also played the game Peak, so this game wasn't on anybody's radar because it was shadow dropped mid-month and has since exploded onto the scene and has been selling like crazy, and for good reason. The game is actually a ton of fun. It was developed by the people who made Content Warning and Another Crab's Treasure, and it's basically the latest Friend Slop, where it uses proximity chat, it's very co-op based, and the game really just sets itself up for tons of funny little moments and divergent gameplay. The premise is pretty shrimple. It's all about just climbing these 4 mountains, and that's all there is to it. You're just trying to get to the peak of these 4 mountains. but every single day the level design is randomly generated, so no 2 days are going to be alike. Some days it's really obvious when it's randomly generated and it feels like there's no level design whatsoever, and other times, you know, it actually seems to be pretty decent. But it's thanks to the random generation that things always feel fresh. It always feels like a new challenge when you're climbing these mountains, and climbing you will do a lot of. This game is really just all about climbing. You're trying to get to the top, you're trying to get to the next ledge, and there's a whole lot of jank. You know, all those Skyrim and Breath of the Wild tricks to stay on the side of the mountain so you can get your stamina back. You're doing that pretty much the entire game, but now you're doing it with up to 3 other friends, and you're all helping each other get up, and there's even a bunch of tools that will help you get up the mountain as well. And this is just great fun. Not only is the climbing mechanics actually really well done, the platforming is fun, and pulling your friends up is such a great time, and the proximity chat really just makes everything better. There were so many funny moments between my friends and I where we're calling to each other and it's echoing because we're yelling at each other down a mountain, or when we're using all of the tools to try to just get up this one tricky section only to find out that we shouldn't have even tried going up that to begin with, or we're climbing up the second mountain and it starts raining and we all slip off and die. There's plenty of great moments here. You do have to manage your health, your stamina, your hunger, and a few weather conditions, and this adds just even more depth and complexity to the gameplay. Like, it's deceptively simple, but there's actually a lot going on here, and it's just wildly entertaining, not only to watch, but actually play yourself. There's so many moving parts, and the stakes start to get so high that I was actually sweating by the end of it, but I eventually did reach the peak with all of my friends, and it was a very satisfying time. This game is unironically one of my favorite games of the entire year, and one of the best co-op experiences I've had in a long time. I enjoy it more than Repo, probably more than Lethal Company, and it's actually in a 1.0 state unlike those games. And while I don't think it's going to last most people more than even a week, it's still a really fun week and some of the best friend slop we've had in quite some time. So from the small indie to a giant big AAA production, here we have Death Stranding 2. I'll be talking about this one more in depth sooner than later. I got some videos planned that involve Death Stranding 2. I haven't played a ton of the game still. I played about 5 hours and I'm enjoying it. It's more Death Stranding. The pacing's a lot better. It looks absolutely incredible. I think it's been pretty great so far. This was actually the last title that I was a part of when I was with SIE. It was still in like early production phases when I was with Sony, and I got to see a little bit of the game behind the scenes, but it's morphed into something completely different now. Really cool to see. The game is just stunning from a visual standpoint, but there's actually a lot of systems and depth here when it comes to the gameplay. It really is all about Sam, played by Norman Reedus, who really just looks like Norman Reedus, going up against a very harsh environment, and it creates some really unique gameplay that you will not find in any other AAA game, and I like a lot of the new things they introduced here. I want to put a lot more time into this one, still working through it, but I'll get to it. This is one that I really want to continue. And speaking of games that I want to continue that I just haven't had enough time for, we have Deliver at All Costs. Now this one came out at the end of May, but I didn't play it until June, and I've played a good amount of this game, and I actually think it's pretty decent. I know some people weren't all that impressed with it, but this is just a simple, funny little driving game that has a very strange story and a great sense of humor. This game actually had me laughing out loud way too many times. There is so much ridiculous shit that goes on in this game. It is as unhinged as it gets, but it doesn't really ever acknowledge just how stupid and unhinged it's getting. It tries to put a straight face on and keep things serious, and honestly it just makes everything funnier. And sure, while the gameplay isn't really anything special, it's not complex or nuanced, you really are just driving back and forth around the map as fast as possible, doing the occasional other objective. It still is enjoyable and entertaining because of how ridiculous everything is around you. You can just drive through buildings. The car is pretty much an unstoppable force. The missions have you just collecting and doing the most random shit, it seems, and it always keeps you guessing. Is this Game of the Year material? Absolutely not. Is it one of those guilty pleasure hidden gems? Oh yeah, that's exactly what this game is. It's not going to wow you, it's not going to blow you away, and you'll probably forget about it a few months later, but for those, 8 to 10 hours, there's some enjoyment to be had with this one. Deliver at All Costs, well, I'll just say it's the perfect title for a game like this, but outside of that, it's just a silly little game that you can have some fun with. So last month I had a game sent to me by the developers. That game was Dune Awakening, so shout out to them for hooking me up with that. I started the game up, realized it was an MMO, and then I remembered that I don't really like MMOs, and so I stopped playing. And that was Dune Awakening for me. But that wasn't the only game sent to me by the developers in the month of June. I also had the game TMNT Tactical Takedown sent to me at the very beginning of the month, and I gotta say, I actually think this game is pretty good. I tried the demo during the Steam Next Fest, was mildly impressed, and after playing through the entire game, I was surprised with just how much I actually enjoyed this one. So it's a tactical strategy game where the turtles are moving across a board, and it's all on a grid, and you have turns, and usually you're just trying to take out as many enemies as possible. Sometimes though you do have to move along a little track, and this is actually quite enjoyable. This is a very fast-paced tactical turn-based strategy game, which usually never has speed associated with it, but this game does. It actually has you moving around pretty fast. You're taking enemies out left and right. They're beating your ass pretty fast. Like, you move really fast in this game considering what kind of genre it is. I can't think of a strategy game that's ever moved this fast, and the pacing is just really well done actually. There's some good levels here. The turtles feel really different from each other. They have some interesting abilities. The story is just kind of whatever, at least it was for me, but you know what? It did provide something different, and yeah, it was a good time. The music was really funky and weird. I like it. I like the presentation. I think it's got a really cute little aesthetic to it, and while it's not terribly long, it was entertaining. I finished it in around the 4 to 5 hour mark, but it was a really great 4 to 5 hours. It was actually developed by Strange Scaffolding, who made a ton of other great games like Click Holding, I Am Your Beast, and El Paso Elsewhere, so yeah, this is a really big departure for them, but you know what? I like it. I like this one. So another game I had sent to me by the developers was the new Lost in Random, The Eternal Die. Now, I had a bit of excitement for this one. I thought the first Lost in Random was pretty cool, but after playing through this one, almost entirely on stream by the way, I was actually pretty disappointed by it. It's really nothing like the other Lost in Random, and it's more of a Hades clone than anything else. It's an action roguelike with plenty of hack and slash and random elements, and the game really just sees you wiping out waves and waves of enemies, and that's pretty much the entire game. There's a few different weapons to it, there's some bosses that show up, and yeah, there is some random elements here, but unfortunately, this one just didn't click with me. The weapons didn't feel all that different from each other, the enemies didn't feel all that different, the rooms certainly didn't feel different from each other. It was just kind of copy-paste for the entire game. Like, the combat is good. There's plenty of good elements here. You can throw the die, you get a special ability that's random every run, and you actually can customize your build a little bit. You can have some pretty different builds here, but unfortunately, it just didn't create the most enjoyable experience. Like, it just started to get a bit repetitive and feel like a slog. And you can go, well, that's every roguelike. It's supposed to be repetitive. You're supposed to play through it over and over and over. Yeah, but after 3 or 4 hours, it was starting to feel repetitive. Like, the game just doesn't do enough differently every run, meaning every run doesn't really feel unique. It all just starts to blend together. With Hades, every run was totally unique. The weapons are very different from each other. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses. The rooms are different. The enemies are super different. The environments are differently designed. Eternal Die, I don't feel that at all. Like, it's not a terrible game. It's still got plenty of good things to it. I like the art style, the story's decent enough, and the combat, it does feel okay, but this is not one I'm going to be returning to anytime again. If they make another one of these games, I hope they make it like the first one, which actually stood out and was super unique. This, it's just kind of generic, and if I didn't make videos on games, I'd totally forget about this game even 3 months from now. Like, that's just how average it is. So one game that I've spent a good amount of hours on in the month of June is Persona 5X. This is the latest in the Persona 5 series. Yes, it really is just a series at this point, and this is a mobile game that was released on PC. And I'll be real with you all, it is a free-to-play gacha. Yep, I'm playing a free-to-play gacha. You'll know why soon enough. I'll have a video on this one shortly, and yeah, I've definitely got some things to say about it. This isn't my style of game. I never play these types of games. I'm always passionate these types of games, but I've put some time into this one. I'd be remiss to not include it here, and yeah, I'm just gonna save all my thoughts for the full video, but just know that this is one that I've played. But that wasn't the only Atlas game I played in the month of June. I also did try Raito Remastered, and this is actually pretty sick. This is a port of the PS2 game with a bunch of quality of life improvements, like a staggering amount to be honest. And this is easily the definitive way to play the game going forward. It's actually an action RPG as opposed to Atlas's usual turn-based RPGs, and it sees you fighting off plenty of demons while summoning your own to help you. You also play as, you know, Raito, and you're a detective, and the story, setting, and characters are actually pretty sick in this game. It also has a really good vibe and aesthetic to it. Like, it looks nice, it plays nice, it has a good soundtrack, and you just want to be in this world. This is very cool. This is a game that I would love to put some more time into. Major shout out to Sega and Atlas for this one, because this is actually pretty cool. Apparently it's also not stupid long. You're not looking at a 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 hour RPG. It's like 20, maybe 25 hours, which is nice. We don't need every game to be stupid long. I'm sure they're going to remaster the second one now that they've done this, and you know what, bring it. We could get these games getting re-released. They need a little bit more spotlight. These are some of the more forgotten SMT games, and what I've played here, I've enjoyed. Now, another game that I played in the month of June was Mindseye, and yeah, this one was pretty awful. I did a full-length review for this one, and I don't got any nice things to say about this. I actually don't really want to talk about this game like ever again, but I'll briefly mention it here. Played it, it's horrible. Next game. And then the last game I want to bring up today is Tunic. I briefly played this one on stream not that long ago, and I just want to bring it up because I do want to give a shout out to the publisher developer for hooking me up with the game. That is pretty cool, and I actually thought it was pretty sick. I love the aesthetic, I love the music, I like the vibes. Yeah, I got a little confused on where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do, but I'll look it up and I'll be back at it with this one because I was actually quite enjoying it. It very much reminds me of the older Zelda games, but it feels like there's some quality of life improvements here, and yeah, it was pretty sweet. But alright, that's it for me today. I feel like I played a wide variety of games. I actually played way more games than this in the month of June, but a bunch of them were only for like an hour or two, and I'm not going to include all of those. I included a few here, and I don't even feel great about including those. But that's what I spent a majority of my June doing. I also did have a trip to Florida where I went to Universal Studios Orlando. I did see Nintendo World. That was pretty sick. Maybe I'll talk about that in more detail at some point. I quite enjoyed that. Sadly, shortly after that, I have fallen into a bit of a depression thanks to some stuff going on in my personal life, just a lot of changes that aren't for the better, and you know, one day I'll talk more about that when I've come to peace with it. I think July is going to be a lot better than June. There's a lot of great games coming out. I'm going to South Korea to get my hair done. I'm really excited for that, and stay safe, everyone. Stay safe, tell your family that you love them, and try to play some good games. Let me know down below what you all have been playing. You'll get a heart from me if you let me know. I always love reading and seeing what everybody's playing. I'm just rambling now, so yeah, bye-bye now.